is that, like, one of my greatest mentors, he says generational trauma rips through families like wildfire until one person turns around and faces it.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. What a week it has been. Oh my goodness. Mark and I have been on vacation with the kids for the last 5 days, and actually everyone left yesterday. And Mark and I are staying by ourselves for a few more days and just to, reconnect and have some quiet time together. And one of the lessons that I have learned, and I swear I keep learning this lesson, and it is so valuable. It's learning how to just go with the flow and not being so reactive and finding ways to keep things fun and light. So that being said, we had all the intentions and plans that we decided to do this week, when the kids were here with us on vacation, but unfortunately ended up our Miss Ella getting sick, and that actually really changed the dynamics of the vacation. And one thing, though, that I love about Mark and I is that no matter what happens, we have learned to just go with the flow and not get upset and just try to keep things fun and light under, whatever the circumstances is. So I just want to say, if you find yourself stressing out and things are not going the way that you planned, it's okay to just take a deep breath and readjust and go with the flow, because I promise, honestly, in the end, it makes all the difference. And that energy that we bring to the situation, like what kind of energy are we bringing? And our energy, honestly, really affects our partner. So I am so grateful Mark was also cool too, because I don't know how things would have turned out if we ended up stressing ourselves out. Because we definitely had to make some adjustments, because we pretty much stayed home with Ella because she was sick. But life will always happen, right? So take those opportunities to just shift your energy and don't stress yourself out and go with the flow. So we ended up having a great time, and Ella ended up getting to feel better. But definitely, just our energy and how we were able to go with the flow made all the difference. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is making space for love. Making space for love is all about the person that you are becoming, not for the person that you were in the past. If you want to call in great love, you must create a warm and open space for that person to come into so they feel welcome when they arrive. Remember, you're calling in your soulmate, not your perfect ego mate. That means you want to be looking primarily with your heart and not just your head. Explore your interactions from how it feels to be around them. Can you feel what it would be like to have this person in your life? Do you feel good around them? Do you enjoy things that they like? Can you see how the two of you fit together? Are you open to having this person in your life and making room for them? Are you willing to adjust your wants and needs to make room for them? These are the questions that I want you to ask yourself, and especially when you're trying to call in great love into your life. I am thrilled to welcome our next guest to the show today. Monica Tanner, relationship coach and host of the Secrets Happily Ever After podcast, transforms marriages with simple communication, connection, conflict resolution, and commitment strategies. Her mission is to lower the divorce rate and improve marital satisfaction. Through her engaging podcast, vibrant social media community, and practical programs, Monica's expert guidance has impacted thousands of couples by helping them ditch resentment and roommate syndrome and get them back to living their happily ever after love story. What I loved about this conversation with Monica is that she was able to face the things that had also impacted her and realize that she has a choice to understand that her past and her generational curse and what she overcame. I loved how she realized that she doesn't have to be that or recreate that into her life. And she has a choice and is the author of her own story. With no further ado, Monica Tanner. Well, hello, Monica. Oh my goodness. I am so excited to talk to you. I really loved our pre-interview and it got me fired up. And I know that, you help people with relationships and intimacy and all the things. But before we even get into that, I want to know a little bit about you. I would love to go back and start with Monica, how you grew up. Did you grow up with a mom and a dad? What was life for you, back in the day?
Yeah. So my growing up was amazing. I grew up I with a mom and a dad. They're both therapists, and a little brother who's 4 years younger. And we had a dog named Je t'aime, which is I love you in French. And in my opinion, we were the perfect nuclear family. I mean, I used to watch Disney movies and I would twirl around the house like Belle and I would flip my hair like Ariel. And I thought I lived in a Disney movie.
You did. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. All right. Where did you where did you guys grow up though? What part of the country? Where are you guys
Grew up in
from?
Texas,
Okay.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay. So you grew up in Dallas, Texas. So then
Mhm,
if that was the case, let me ask you this.
mhm.
When you would now looking back when you were a little girl, how did you view your parents' relationship? Did you think that their relationship was perfect or did you see conflict or did you what was it for you how you thought about their relationship?
Yeah, I did. I thought their relationship was perfect. I thought everything was perfect. We had dinner together every night and we would then ride our bikes to get frozen yogurt. And I felt like everything was wonderful until I was 12 years old and my parents sat us down in the living room. And I remember because I was going to summer camp that summer and I was so excited. And they informed me that they were getting a divorce. And I remember thinking, wait a second, I've never seen a Disney movie where the king and the queen break up, right? So, yes, I did feel like I grew up in a perfect Disney movie. However, that wasn't always the case.
That wasn't always the case because so from born until 12 years old everything seemed to be great. Okay, so what ends up happening then? This shift because you're kind of kind of in your little fairy tale land, which is the sweetest thing. That's how kids are, right? That's how we should. I
Right.
hope we should be. And then you really are faced with my parents are not going to be together anymore. How did
Yeah.
that affect you, Monica?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it threw me into a tailspin, basically. It made me question a lot of things. And I remember even at that young age, 12, I was hyper tuned into other married couples' relationships. I remember going over to my friends' houses and I would study their parents to see how they interacted with each other and what maybe I could pick out from them that maybe my parents missed or
Okay,
something.
yeah, okay. So from that age when that happened to you, it really changed the way that you were viewing things in relationships. Oh, wow.
It really
Wow.
did. At 12 years
Okay.
old, I was pretty black and white, and I thought, "Wait a second." Yeah, I thought, "Wait a second, this is not" you know, and the reality was I had a lot of friends whose parents were divorced, so it wasn't like something that I wasn't aware of, it was just something that I never thought would happen to me, and I remember even at that very young age thinking, "I'm gonna get this figured out because I'm not ever doing this.
Mhm. You thought about that at the young age. That was the
I
next question.
remember having that thought,
Wow,
and it
that's
has basically
fascinating.
guided the rest of my life.
It did okay, that was the question I was gonna ask you because when I talk to, people and I get to hear their stories, a lot of the ways that our life is guided is really based on how we grew up and the experiences that we had. So I always wanted to let people know that, like, the experiences and the stuff that's happened to you as a child really will affect you as you grow up, as you go into adulthood, and it all depends on what happened or what didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you are stuck. It doesn't mean that that's, like that's how it has to be. It just means that that's reality. Like that is truly
Mhm.
reality. Okay, so now for you, you go through this, realizing that your parents are going to divorce. Did that happen pretty quick for you, or like how did life turn around? Because now you're living with the parents and you have, your siblings and the dog, and then now did your parents go through the full thing? Like now you're living at two different houses. What happened?
Yeah. Well, as I remember it, my dad moved into an apartment that wasn't very far away from our house. And so my brother and I went to stayed with my dad at the apartment for a week, stayed with my mom at the house for a week. And pretty soon after that, my dad met somebody and they started dating, moved in together, eventually got married, and my mom moved away. So that was kind of my teenage years was living with my dad and my stepmother and her two stepdaughters, or yeah, her two daughters who became my stepsisters. And so we became a larger blended family. And my mom was several states away. So I would live with my dad and stepmom and stepsisters during the school year. And then I would visit my mom for the summers.
For the summer. How
Mhm.
was it with you then with your stepsisters? And like, I mean, literally your life just went completely turned around, right? Was that a good experience or was that not so much good experience with the sisters?
Well, I would say, at the time, it was not pleasant, of course. It was hard to blend a family and there was a lot going on. And, I think it was very difficult on everybody involved.
Yeah. Okay. So how did that play a part then when it came to, you being a teenager and you like liking boys? And were you in like a place that like you're like, oh, forget it. I don't want to date boys, or were you like boy crazy? Like where were you when you know what I mean? Like what age were you when you're kind of like, okay, enough with that. But did that affect you when it came into liking boys, not liking boys? What happened there?
Uh, that's a great question. I don't know that I've ever been asked that question before. I dated pretty seriously in high school. I mean, Um, I had 3 specific boyfriends that I can remember in high school for long periods of time. Um, Probably a little bit of, making up for, you know, that that loss of being daddy's little girl and all of that. So yeah, I'm sure I acted out a lot of that angst
Yeah, yeah, because
in high
I
school.
tell women, I said sometimes it's things that happen to us and the way that we start reacting and this way that we start showing up, it's almost not our fault. Like it really is. When you're a child, right? Like it's just our mindset at the time. We all have like when we go through certain things like divorce, trauma, all of that stuff, we process differently and we go through certain things. So I
Mhm.
love to hear how like go back and hear how women were processing at their that time because that's going to play a big effect in you moving forward. And then when you get a little older, obviously, and you start going into the dating world, and if you had, success or not success, and how you really looked at like, oh, do I want to get married, not married? Where were you at with that? When did you start like really realizing I do want to get, have a serious relationship and get married? Or were you kind of like, no, I pretty don't want to? What was your mindset with that?
You
Or you
know,
weren't even thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think by the time I got to college, I had done enough of a study of relationships that I felt like maybe a happily ever after didn't really exist. And so I was pretty skeptical that married people could even be happy together. So yeah, how that affected me was I was pretty not anti-marriage, but I think that I wasn't really expecting to have any type of magical happily ever after like I had originally planned on having.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're in college, right? You're in
Mhm.
college and you're dating. Are you kind of more, are you still in serious relationships or are you more like just
Oh,
kind of
no,
free?
college was super fun, just dating lots of boys.
So you were not in the seriousness. You were like, I am not getting serious with anybody. I'm just going to have a great time. Okay.
Yes.
So then what ends up happening? So after the college, when did you end up having a serious relationship before you met your husband? Or did you go right into was the next round your husband?
No,
What was
no
going on
serious
there?
no serious relationships in college. In fact, there were
Okay.
boys that wanted to marry me, and I was not having any of it.
You're like, nope, nope, I'm not gonna, nope, you are not my
Anytime a
guy.
relationship got too close, I was like, "And we're done."
And we're done. You're like, and we're done. Okay, so when did you start realizing, oh, you know what? Maybe I do want something different here, or did it just kind of happen? Like, or does this kind of happen with your husband? What happened there?
I'm gonna say that just kind of happened. I met my husband 3 months later. I knew we were getting married, and 6 months later, we were married.
So you meet? Oh my goodness, where did you meet your husband then? That is fantastic. So you're kind of like
I met my
whatever.
husband about a week after I graduated and walked.
You did? Oh, that's fantastic. And what? Like, how did you meet him? Like, what happened?
I met him at church. He like, he saw me, wanted to meet me, kind of went through my roommate. I was not interested in meeting him at all, and a couple days later, we were inseparable, so that's kind of how that went.
So he was with. So it was basically instant for both of you. So it wasn't right? Like, was it like
Pretty
kind of
pretty close. I think he knew before I did, but yes, I he was kind of like, "I wanna meet that girl," and I had no interest in meeting anyone, and yeah, but the connection was very strong very quickly.
okay. So what is that what it was for you? It was that connection, right? It was that connection that there was so he obviously was different than what you were used to. What what do you think?
Sure. I mean, he was cute, he was fun to talk to, we had a lot of in common, and I think that unconsciously and I believe a lot of things now that I'm trying to tell you from the perspective of
Oh
college.
yeah, that's what I love. That's exactly what she's doing, ladies. This is the best part is because we all have that's amazing. No, seriously, thank you. Because we all have um different ways we process and different ways that we think of things obviously back then, right? And it doesn't
Right.
mean that that's how we feel now, but this really plays a big part in how we pick relationships and how we get in relationships. And that's why I really believe it's really important to have this conversation
Yeah.
because it just because you have a different mindset now and things are different now, it's important to see how it was back then so people can have a different perspective. They can look at that perspective like, oh, okay, that's cool. That makes sense. Because what's really cool about the show and why I created this show, right? So I created the show to highlight not only women's journey and their love story, to let people know like we come from all different backgrounds and we have all different experiences and we get to where we're at in a different way. So sometimes it's not just there's not necessarily like just a one road to get to where you want to go. And sometimes we make choices that work for us and sometimes we don't. It's all okay. But in the end, if you are a person that really is looking for love and looking for a relationship, it's possible. It doesn't matter if you had a past that didn't work out or you had bad relationships. So I really love you sharing that story, how you grew up and how you met your husband and your mindset in your process, because that's really important for other people to hear. So thank you for that. So okay,
Yeah.
so then so with your husband, you said you would say you said a little earlier, said kind of two things, that it was pretty like you knew it was him pretty quickly. But You were
I
also
wouldn't say I knew it was him pretty quickly. I he was very charming, very easy to hang out with, and I felt very safe, like he wasn't gonna hurt me, and that was a feeling that I didn't really have with the other boys.
That's important. Okay, there you go. That's good. Because I go back to where when I think about us women and I think about us having relationships and really understanding who we should be with and pick somebody, a lot is based on how you feel around that person.
Mhm.
And if you have right, because your gut, regardless, because your mind's gonna just get a little like crazy, right? But your gut, your intuition, your gut is going to let you know, do I feel safe around this person or is something off? But I'm attracted to them, but is something off? So with him in general, it was a feeling of just safe. Like he was like, this guy is a good guy. I feel safe with him. That's really cool. That's really cool. So then you guys, okay, so how old were you at the time when you got engaged?
Oh, good question. 20 We got married when I was 20. I was about to turn 23, so we got engaged when I was 22.
Okay, so your engagement was only like a short time, right? Did you say, was I correct? You
Mhm.
said 6 months,
My engagement was about 5 months, yes.
5 months, and then we get married. You get married. Okay, here we go. So you so right? Like there it goes. So we're like, okay, I'm in love with this man. I obviously so at this time you're crazy in love with the guy when he asked you to marry him because you said yes, I would think, right? Or were
Yep,
you hesitant? You were good?
nope, super
Okay.
excited, let's go.
Let's go. Let's go, baby. Okay. And your age, your guys' age, were you guys close in age? Was he older, younger?
We're exactly 2 weeks apart. He's 2 weeks younger than me. In fact, my birthday is tomorrow, and his is in 2 weeks from
Ooh,
tomorrow.
oh, happy birthday. Happy pre-birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, so he loves the older women.
Yeah.
Tell him I
Yes,
said that.
I
Go, yeah,
love the
Charlene said.
tale.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, so then we get married. And how is the relationship, until because what I realized too, because how long you been married, hon?
22 years.
22 years. Oh man. So yeah, there's a lot of colors in 22 years. So we get married, right? We get married and I would think things were cool. What ends up like did you go into a shift start happening? Like when did life happen and then you guys had your first kind of like some things, we have to work through this or whatever, or has it been just perfect?
No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, 'cause I was like, I know she wasn't gonna say that. Everybody was like, "There's no perfect nothing."
If
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
tells you that, they're probably lying.
They're totally lying, exactly. Okay, so what happened, mama? So you're in love with this man, you're 23 years old, you guys get together, and then what was your first kinda like, "Mm, we gotta work through this," or something happened, or did what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think all kinds of things were happening. All of I'll speak for myself, childhood trauma, wounding, fears all coming up. And so, like I said, I really took into my marriage this idea that, of course, I wanted the perfect love story, but I wasn't necessarily sure that that existed. So I would say from the very beginning, I started my marriage with one foot in and one foot out because I did not
Oh.
want to get hurt.
Okay, that's good to know. I think that's like a lot. Really, I've interviewed so many people and worked with so many people, and a lot of women, believe that or not, like depending, like you said, like how our childhood happened, and especially if we go through a divorce or there was abuse or trauma, it's really hard when you finally do it to really trust it because you need some time. And that's what I say. Things will start coming up. So things started coming up for you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. And so tell me, so what did you end up doing? Like how did that affect your marriage?
Yeah. I mean, we started having children right away. I mean, that was a goal of both of us. We wanted a bigger family. And I think with every child, and we started a business together. I mean, we were very busy making a beautiful life. And I remember at some point, well, I remember exactly when it was, after my 3rd baby, that I looked around and I thought, "What in the hell am I doing?" Right? Like, I started to feel all of the insecurities, all of the anxieties, all of the, "What if I'm not enough? What if I'm not supposed to have all of this? I don't know how to do this." All of that came flooding in. Yes.
Mhm, mhm. Because you never really I would think prior to all of this, life was just kinda going fast, and that's usually for all of us. You're not really going to, like, take all the parts apart, like, and say, "Why do I'm this way?" Until literally that's what happens. Sometimes relationships, where it all surfaces, right? This is where it really all surfaces. This is when we can reflect on all the things, and
Yeah. I like to
usually
say my adaptations. All of my adaptations worked until I had about 3 kids. So part of my adaptation was to control everything, be perfect at everything, never screw up, like very perfectionistic. I can get through life and I can earn all the love by being perfect. That was my probably one of my biggest adaptations, and that all came crumbling down when I had 3 very small children, a house, a business, a husband who worked really hard to give us all of the things, but, um, you know, definitely feeling like I am not in control of anything here.
Yeah, that's good. I get that. Absolutely. So now you're in that stage. You're a mama. You have 3 little kids, little ones, and
Really
you are
cute.
like little cute kids, yeah, of course. And you're like, I'm falling apart. Like this is a lot. This is a lot. I love my life, but I'm not sure about me. What do you do? What'd you end up doing? What ended up happening here?
Well, I got debilitating anxiety.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, so many women are going to hear this. They're going to understand this.
Yeah,
They're
and
really
I
gonna
and I
understand
only
this.
laugh because it it took really, really, like, losing control of everything on the highest level. I couldn't dress myself, I couldn't feed myself, certainly couldn't take care of these 3 beautiful children. And so, one of my kind of core beliefs was that strong women don't ask for help, and
Oh, yep. That was
so
your
it
mindset. Mhm.
it really took me needing a lot of help to break out of that
I don't where do you
horrible
think this comes
situation.
do you where does that come from? Because so many of us women, so many of us, I mean, seriously, so many of us, unless time goes by and we do the work and we heal, so many of us are so stubborn, and I don't it's like I said, I don't think it's our fault. I think it really comes down to what society has told us, what people have told us, you got to do it on your own. You got to be strong and you don't ask for help and I can do it and I can do it. And it totally disserves. I mean, it is the worst message for us women because that actually is ridiculous. It exhausts us. It gets us to a point that like we're not trying to be controlling. Control to me is almost a protection, right? It's almost a protection. You're like, if I can control everything, everything's gonna be okay, which is which in the end you're not okay, you're not okay. And so when you found yourself like that, like because I remember too being in a stage in my life that not that I thought that I was controlling, but I really thought that like to be a mom, to be to be a strong woman, you don't ask for help. And I got exhausted. I mean, just absolutely completely drained. It was ridiculous. It was to the point like I almost had to prove it that I can do it by myself, but really I wasn't doing it by myself because I was falling apart.
Mhm,
Is that was your experience?
mhm.
Okay, so now you're in this stage and you're just like still thinking because that came from back then. Something happened, there was a messaging, something that's where you really felt like no, that's what it is to be a good wife. Probably that's what it is to be a good mom. You do it all. You don't complain. Can you tell us that that's not true now?
Yes, with
Tell women
all
like
my heart, with all my heart.
but so tell me what you learned about that. I want people to hear that because what if they're in that state right now, right? Let's say that. Let's say women are listening to this right now and they're like, "Oh, I do find myself like I feel like I have to do it all by myself. I feel like, I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good wife if I'm asking for help. What would you say to her?
I would say that's a lie, but also I think for me, I had to really, really lose control and face my biggest fear, which was see, there's a few things that I teach now that I know, like, everybody is rational to themselves. So, while it's completely irrational fears to other people looking in, everybody is rational to themselves, right? So, one of the things I was irrationally afraid of was repeating my parents' story, and so I was trying to control everything in my environment to not repeat my parents' story, when in reality, and here's what I've learned, and this is my life's work to teach, is that you can't control the environment, you can control who you are in your environment. And so I had to absolutely hit rock bottom. I had to face all of my fears, make all of them okay so that I could stop trying to control all the things I couldn't control and just be present and loving and face reality, knowing that I am the author of my own story. I can control me, I can control my experience, but I cannot control my circumstances.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. Like that's oh wow, that's so good. Absolutely. When you were in that state and you are, like you said, you're in the rock bottom and we're taking you back, right? We're taking you back to back then. But when you were in that rock bottom, what was your husband like at the time? Will you say that he was supportive of you, or will you say that he was like, I'm done, I'm leaving, it's over? What was going on with your husband?
No, well, so just to be clear, my biggest fear was my husband leaving.
That was
That
your biggest
was
fear.
my biggest fear.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he wasn't saying he was leaving at the time.
Yeah, but I was creating a self-fulfilling prophecy with my fears, so it didn't actually matter what my husband was doing,
Yeah, yeah.
as I interpreted everything as, "He's gonna leave."
He's gonna leave. He's gonna
And
leave.
so I was creating my biggest fear,
Okay,
right?
right. So you were creating your biggest fear, and how is that affecting him? How is he still showing up with you?
Yeah, so he was doing I mean, he was doing the best that he could. He's an imperfect human with, all of his own
All
trauma
the
and
stuff. We're all
fears.
imperfect for
Yeah,
sure. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. Yeah, we
yeah,
all got our stuff. Like I always tell people,
right.
I said, listen, 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 Linda. I tell people that I'm like, we all have our stuff. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean,
It
that's just
didn't
how it
matter.
is.
He could have been perfect.
Yeah. There's no
I
perfect,
still
but
was
yeah,
interpreting everything he did as what I was most afraid of.
got it. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I say regardless, you were still interpreting it as that. Even though he wasn't physically like, I'm leaving you, it didn't matter. You're already thinking, I'm doing everything. He's going to leave anyway. Kind of like that. I got you. Okay, that makes sense. So, how did you shift? Because that is big, mama. That's big, and the deal is, and this is the reality, and I'm sure this is why you're doing the work that you're doing, is that unfortunately, right? Let's just say it. Unfortunately, a lot of women don't shift, don't have an opportunity, don't even know where to go. That's why I love this podcast, because I want them to hear there's hope. There's you're not stuck if you don't want to be stuck. You can change, you can grow, you can learn, like you can go through a season, and maybe that season's long for a while, but doesn't mean that you have to stay in that season. So for your story, you had an opportunity, and I really want to know what it was for you, that was able for you. Like Charlene, I was as low as it can be. Oh, what I mean, I was really in a very disempowering place, not doing well, which is totally understandable. And now you had an opportunity. What do you think it was with you that you were able to start shifting and get some help, or not? Like what happened?
Yeah. Uh, I really had no choice but to get some help. And, I think one of the most impactful, pivotal things that I did to get help was I went home to live with my mom, who is who is a licensed therapist. She has her PhD, she works with couples all the time, um, and she helped me because well, I would recommend going to a therapist. My mom was a therapist, but saw she saw a lot of the wounding go into me. So she had like a special perspective. She's also done enough work on herself to not be triggered by me being triggered, right? So she was able to help me see much more clearly my fears, my how I was feeding all of these this need for control, but actual just being able to embrace reality and understand that I can be the author of my own story. I'm not held to, I don't have to live anyone else's story, right? And that fear kept me so paralyzed until I could see, so what if all of these things that I feared actually did happen? And once I could look at that with no fear and no judgment, then I can go and be the best version of myself and the author of my own story because I wasn't held hostage by all of these fears.
Mhm. Mhm. No, that yeah, absolutely. And you had that like your little angel too, your mama, right?
Yeah.
It just yeah,
Mhm.
it's beautiful that was able to not only, obviously as her profession, which she's able to kind of understand that, but you're her daughter.
But and her
Mhm.
life. My
In
like
her
my
life,
my mom
yes.
my mom my so, a lot of times I talk about these things as generational trauma. So my mom had to kind of live out she had to blow up a lot of things in her life to learn this lesson. And thankfully, she because of her experience and the things that she learned could give me the gift of helping me learn them without so much of what she had to go through. And now I in turn have healed a lot. We'll still hand our children all kinds of trauma and mess. But the hope is that, like, one of my greatest mentors, he says, "Generational trauma rips through families like wildfire until one person turns around and faces it." So um, you either hand the trauma on or you hand it back. And so my mom did a lot of that work. I've been able to do a lot of that work. And I hope that my children will be able to free them, do the work that they were sent here to do. And that's what I help others do as well, is just break these generational traumas and become the author of their own story. You have to be willing to face it. You have to be willing to face it. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to feel the hard feelings and do the hard things.
And do the hard things, and what's really cool, honestly, is that, you know, what I love is that you help people do that now, but you gone through it yourself, right? Like, you're looking at it from, like, a completely you're like, "I understand, I was there, I was as low as can be, and if I can go through it, and I can walk in it, and get the help, and get the realization, and really clear those traumas, and really clear all that, then I know that it's possible for anyone."
Yeah. And just to be clear, I don't actually think anything gets completely cleared. I would still call myself in recovery. I still have some of the same thoughts and the same tendencies, right? But with the work that I've done, I recognize it. I can let it just be. It doesn't control me or my actions anymore. I can just let it be. Like, "Oh, there's that thought again." I can be a watcher of my thoughts. I have a lot more choice now that I can see all of those things that I couldn't see before. And I think that's what a lot of people do is they live their whole lives kind of on autopilot, either modeling what they've learned, reacting to what they've learned. And it's not until we like really turn around and face it and learn, what all of the influences and impacts are on us, that we now have a choice. Like, okay, I can see that, I can understand that, but I don't have to be that. I don't have to recreate that.
Yeah. I always say, like, I have this little saying, okay, so, all of us, right? Like, all of us has, it's really good because all of us have, everybody, listen to me, everybody, we have the voices, okay? And it's not necessarily true. It's just the voices. I call it. You want to know what I call them? I think it's the funniest thing. I call it the itty bitty shitty committee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, no, no, no. You guys are not going to talk to me today. And before I learned about, this little itty bitty shitty committee, I remember like it would also for me as a woman really control me, like it was really up and down because I would, your feelings when it comes to that stuff, like, and your thoughts, I mean, it's just, and it's not necessarily true, but I would latch on to them and it would just take me down and I would just completely feel, whatever that feeling is and just beat myself up because I didn't have the tools and I didn't have, the healing that I ended up going through myself. And so that was very debilitating. So if you're hearing this and you're noticing that, that you find yourself, what I call it, in this loop, right? In this loop of like those thoughts that are totally controlling you because that the way that you think will really affect on how you're going to show up and how you're going to be. And
Mhm.
so when I remember, it was kind of like that same thing, until I was able to do some work and heal. It was Monica, like it was constantly. You know that you've been through this. It was constantly. It was just going around and around. So I almost felt that I was going crazy.
It is very crazy making, that's for sure.
And then you're on top of this and you're like, but what am I going to do? Because, I want to be married. I love, I'm happy that, I did meet a good guy. I'm not, you weren't in a situation that you were with this, really toxic man. So that must have been even more confusing. And then of course I could tell you're such a mama, of course you loved your kids, everything, but it was like, but you had to deal with that. So
Mhm.
let's talk about a shift in the sense of, when you now, after you gone through that experience yourself, right? And you were able to really be able to start learning yourself differently and really learning to heal as time was going by. And I do believe that with all my heart. I think until the day we close our eyes, it's going to be something that we're going to, just, hey, nope, nope. And I think as time goes by, it gets a little better, right? It does, and
Mhm.
it really depends. And we're all women. Come on, and us women, we also have to understand that we're also dealing with hormones and other things that are, in our bodies that are always going to be like going against us a little bit. Hopefully until, well, you know what I hear though? Let me, Monica, I'm not in menopause yet, but let me just tell you this. I'm almost there. I'm just telling you, my mama told me, she's like, let me tell you the gift of menopause. She says, because when you finally go through that, she said, all that kind of up and down, the hormone stuff, she said, you go, zzz. She's like, you kind of feel normal again. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds wonderful.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
She told me. Yes, she told me. I was like, she's like, you have something to look forward to. I'm like, okay, cool. And it's always like, okay, good. So maybe there's something positive there. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, anyway, I know. I'm like, I'm right there, right there. But when it came to after, I mean, that was, I understand that we're kind of giving a little bit of light, but that was dark. That was deep. Of course it was. But when you came back up, you know, is this what really inspired you to do the work you're doing now?
Mhm.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So tell me what you do.
Well, I like to say life is so much sweeter and when you're happily married, right? Like
Yes.
so yeah, um I started learning about relationality and relational living, and there's a lot of just understanding who we are and how we came by it naturally, who we are, right? There's no shame in who we are, but there's parts of us, right? There's parts of us, like the adaptive child part of us who was formed early in life to protect us. And, a lot of us live our entire lives out of that adaptive child part of us. And it's not until we can learn how to love that little one up and take care of that little one and not foist that little one onto our partners to take care of, um, that we can learn how to truly be protected and connected at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you see then for the most part, like when with your clients, like when people, come to, is it usually women that are already in a relationship, or is it women that are single and maybe had a bad relationship? I mean, what usually happens with your
Well, I mostly
clients?
work with couples. I work with
Couples.
couples who want more intimacy, connection, passion in their relationship. So, usually they come to me with a goal. They wanna communicate better, or they want to, work together as a team better, or they just want more passion and fun in their relationship. And there's usually some things standing in the way of their goal. And so first we have to find that thing, clear the thing that stands in the way of what they really want, and then teach them the skills to really create a more relational way of living together. And I have found that um, the it's really it can happen so quickly, um, but it takes a lot of work and time and, effort, but for a couple to really kind of unlock that new level of connection. It's not something that's taught in our society. It's not something we learn, and so, like I kind of started by saying, I had this happily ever after, idea, and then at some point it shattered, like, maybe there isn't such a thing as happily ever after, and I will tell you that today I solidly believe in happily ever after. We can create that. Um, but yeah, but we have to be able to, so what I was gonna say is that I believe that we perfectly my mentor Terry Real calls this the mysticism of marriage, that we end up with somebody perfectly designed to help us grow in all of the ways. Not that they are going to change us or help us or take care of us or fill in the holes or any of that. We just perfectly designed to push on the parts of us that need to grow, that need to mature, that in order for us to become the very best versions of ourselves individually and in relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see a pattern in couples when they come to you? Do you see like usually I work majority with women.
Mhm.
And I work, but I told you I'm a mom of a lot of boys and I've studied men and I really have a different, they're different perspective. But when couples come to you, it's couples that you said that want, to get close or just different things, right? But
Mhm.
when they come to you, what are some patterns that you're noticing? Is it usually like relationships that kind of like lost the passion, or is it like, or they got into more of a routine? Because this is what I say. So people will say to me, like, to me it's not the matter of years that you've been married. I'm like, that's cool, okay, because I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, so a lot of people pride themselves on marriage, like, well, we've been married for 20 years, 30 years, 17 years, whatever that is. Okay, cool, cool. But how is the marriage? Because if you're going to look at me and you're going to tell me, well, we've been married, but are you guys able to grow? Are you guys in that marriage? Have you guys matured? Like as time goes by, have you been really able to have closer intimacy? Like are you guys having fun? Like are you guys like is it exciting? Because I truly believe this. Like if we're going to get in relationships and we're going to be in a marriage, it
Mhm.
actually should be easy. it should be easy. Life is hard. Life is really hard. But when you find someone and you really work through what you need to start working through, I always believe that marriage and partnership is where you come for like peace and comfort and fun and exciting. And you have to be able to like understand that, because I don't believe that relationships should be hard and toxic and and boring and sexless. And no, I believe in the opposite. I'm like, if we're going to get in relationships, there's no perfect anything, you guys, but seriously, relationships are supposed to enhance your life. And relationships is where, you get to have that. So when you have people coming to you, Monica, and you're like I said, I wanted to ask you that, like a pattern. Do you normally notice that's what's going on? And is it usually the woman that's more frustrated and the man's, because a lot of times the men are like, I thought we were fine. They're like,
Yeah.
he's like, I was good. I haven't done anything. What do you notice what happens with couples? Because I know you deal with a lot of couples.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say a little bit of everything. I mean, of course, I do have, the women that drag their men to therapy and, so that dynamic, but there's all different types of dynamics. Yeah, so I mean, I think the reality is teaching couples the skills to really ask for what they want and need in the relationship, at the same time, not depending on their partner to give them anything, right? So it's all about knowing how to take care of yourself and ask for the things that you need. A relationship is all about little micro disappointments all of the time. Um, so when you say it should be easy, I don't necessarily know easy, but fulfilling and joyful. And there's a lot of joy in knowing that you've chosen the person that you want to be with and that you're choosing the person that you want to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. To me, what I mean by that is that, like, if you are a person that is not, if you're understanding and you're not relying on the other person to make you happy, because no one's
Mhm.
going to make you happy, it should be easy.
Yeah.
Because if you, right, that's what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah,
because a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
times, yeah. So to me, that's how a relationship should be. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be, oh, if he did this or I do this, then I'll be happy and then I'll be okay. No, you got to do that on your own, because that person is going to have their own stuff. They're going to have their own stuff. And it's you as an individual. That's what I've learned. As you as an individual, it doesn't matter how he's showing up. It matters how I'm showing up, because
Yes.
that's where my peace is at.
There's a lot of
That's what.
truth in that, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying all relationships are meant to stay together. There are some that are definitely not. But yes, I think that you take control of how you show up in the relationship, because to think that you can control how somebody else shows up is a lie anyways, right? So you show up the best you can possibly show up, and you learn the skills and you work on the skills together, and you create a cherishing, generous, loving relationship that you choose. And that's
And that you create. That's why you're helping people,
right.
because you're helping people, because we don't learn these skills for the most part. Some
Mhm.
people believe it, they got it. I don't know, they got it. It's just what it is. But I always like to talk about the majority. That's what I like to say. I'm
Yeah.
talking. Let's literally talk about the majority, and the majority of people, me included, the majority of the people, you don't learn this. You don't learn this. And then you find yourself, you're in a relationship. And this is what I was going to say earlier. And years go by. And then you ask that person, yeah, I've been married for 20 years, but are you happy? No. Okay. There's a shift that can happen there. So that's what I love what you're doing, because it is so needed. It's not something that people should feel bad about, or it's not something that people think that they should already know, right? No, no one's going to already know this. It's something that, like with anything else, this is so important. With anything else, if you're struggling and things are not aligned the way you want it to do, oh my gosh, you guys, it's okay. Get some help. It's
Mhm.
just like anything else. Like, I always want to refer it back to, when we talk about like our health. And if you're like, okay, I'm not feeling good, I'm overweight or whatever you're at, And you don't have to figure this out on your own. Like, I mean, there's people that can actually already has the tools and can guide you, and you don't have to go crazy. You can literally like get some help. So that's what I love. I love that you're doing that, because as you notice, as the clients that you're helping, I'm sure, Monica, like it is like, oh, they come in. That's why I wanted to know if it was like a kind of like you see like a pattern. And I always notice that it's women are more in this space more than men.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Women are more in this space, but they're willing to also work through, things so they can be better communicators too. So they can, learn a little, learn their woman more. But I notice too, like I always tell women too, I'm like, listen, if that's what's happening, you got to start. Like you have to start. Like take the time to start. Is that kind of like what you notice too
Yeah, I
with
mean, I
women?
think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of couples come in thinking that there's something wrong with either them, their partner, or the relationship, and a lot of times it's that nothing has necessarily gone wrong, it's an opportunity to grow and to learn these relational skills.
Yes. 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 And I feel like I'm telling you, I wish a lot of people understand like when you're going to get in a relationship, even if you are in love and you are attracted to the person, and and obviously we have a lot of hormones happening right now. We have the endorphins, we have all the feel good stuff, and that's just reality. um when that starts to kind of like level out, I'm saying this right now, you guys, like, don't hesitate to learn some skills. It's okay. Like, right, like, don't hesitate to learn some skills, because you can learn some skills, and like, I love that you said, and sometimes it's not that hard. It doesn't take that much. And, sometimes it's just a different perspective and a different understanding. And right.
And
And so,
actually, when you go
yeah.
to get help, so this is, like, really, really important because you can learn skills, and I think that's also very, very important. But a lot of times what a good relationship coach is gonna help you do, and especially in RLT, so RLT is the modality, relational life therapy is the modality in which I am trained, is going to help you deal with the parts of yourself that aren't gonna use the skills anyways. Because when you're in your adaptive child, you're not thinking about, "Oh, I'm gonna use these skills and I'm gonna make things better." You're only thinking about self-preservation and self-protection. And so what you would do with a really good RLT practitioner is
Yes.
to
Like
learn.
Monica.
Yes, is to learn about the different parts of yourself and how to care for the part of you that is very focused on protection and not connection, right? And so once you learn how to care for that part of you and to maintain what we call second consciousness or being in your wise adult, that's when you can start to use these relational skills. But first, you have to deal with the parts that don't want to use them.
Yeah, I always say you gotta do a little work. That's how I say. You gotta do a
Yeah,
little work first. You
you're
gotta do a
right.
little work because we have, we gotta work in the parts because we have
Yep.
different parts of us. Absolutely. I'm very happy you said that, because once you're able to, like, again, it's the same thing. It's like looking inwards. It's looking at yourself
Yeah.
first. Once
Yep.
you're able to do that,
Mhm.
then you can learn things that you can really apply and understand. Oh, okay, it's cool. Men and women are different, and there's ways to communicate better. There's ways to do things better. There's ways, that, maybe the ways that we were doing it is not so much working. That's the coolest part. I just want people to hear that. There is so much hope here. Relationships are amazing. And even if you're feeling right now that it's not amazing, it's okay. It's okay. Like, seriously, if I want people,
You're
if they're
right.
listening, like, right, if they're like, well, gosh, I've been in a relationship for a long time and it's not fun and it's not that great. Oh, it's okay. Things can actually change. Things can actually change if you want to do it, right? You got to also be willing, because you know how that is. We can say, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. Okay. What are you doing to lose weight? Because you can't just say it. You can't go, oh, I just want to lose weight. You got to like get in there. You got to, get some help. You got to get some work. You got to learn some stuff. And so that's the beauty of this. Let me ask you this. What would you say to women that are what they were in relationships? Okay. They were in relationships. They're single now, but they didn't have a good relationship, Monica. Like things obviously didn't work out, and they have like things are like they kind of have this view now of like, oh, I don't know if relationships can work, because you said earlier relationships should be great, like that's awesome. And what would
Can
you
be
say? They can be great, right? If you want them to, what would you say for those women that have that block now of thinking like, I do want somebody, but I'm not sure. I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling very disempowered of by like really realizing, can I trust a man again? Can I trust myself? I want women to have some hope here.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think the work there for a woman who is feeling that way is to get into a relationship because they choose it and not because they feel like they need it. So a lot of that work is taking care of your can you independently take care of yourself so that you can bring your best self to a relationship, if that makes any sense. Because the relationship isn't going to heal you, it's not going to fix you, it's not going to complete you. And so I think that's kind of the mentality of getting into relationships too quickly, maybe. But when you feel whole and you feel good on your own, that's when when you choose to give yourself to be protected and connected, if that makes sense. If you're feeling in any way not whole, like you need something, yes, then you're going to get into a relationship and either need to be protected or completed. And so the trick there is to do your work, to heal so that you can go into a relationship not needing anything or being open. So it's both and, right? It's wanting to give to a relationship and not needing anything from it.
Yeah. So that's perfect. That is if you are finding yourself in that space, what you're saying is take the time now. Don't even like, right? If that's where you're at, take the time now to figure out what's going on, like you said, to get some healing, to, really discover that. So when you are actually ready to go out and put yourself out there and be vulnerable and meet someone, you're already going out there without that feeling, without thinking, oh, I'm not sure. No, go out there already feeling pretty great. Take that time for yourself. Take your time for yourself before you get in a relationship, because that's going to come up anyway. So that's perfect. I love that. I really love that. Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness. You have been awesome, Monica. This has been so great. I no, seriously. How do people, that are listening to this today and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to get in her world. How do they get in your world? How can they reach you? Where can they find you? How do they work with you? The whole thing, Monica. What do we do here?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I've been really enjoyed spending this time with you. The easiest way to get into my world is to just go to my website, monicatanner.com. You can take an intimacy level quiz there. You'll find all the information about my Secrets of Happily Ever After podcast and YouTube channel. You can also apply to work with me there. So it's easy, just monicatanner.com.
monicatanner.com, and we're going to leave her information in the show notes so you can get in Monica's world. And if this is really resonating with you and you're married and you're like listen, look at Monica. How is marriage now, Monica?
It's wonderful.
It's good. Yeah, things are.
But
See,
on
and
our worst days, we can look like everybody else. We just now have some skills and some tools that help us get out of that place now.
yeah, and you also did the work on yourself, which is really cool. Really, really cool. And that's actually what's helped everything too, right? Your husband did it, you did it, whatever. Now you guys are together. And remember, she said earlier on, that's why I took us back to the beginning. She said earlier on, it wasn't always like that. And she went through it, and look at her now. And now, not only that, she's doing this for a living, you guys. She's really helping people. It's amazing.
It's
Well,
very
thank
rewarding.
you. Is it? Thank you so much, Monica. It's been a joy to have you. This is going to be so awesome for people to hear this story, and it's so helpful. So thank you so much for being on today.
Well, thank you.
And until next time, cheers to great love. That's a wrap. What an incredible love story. How Monica went inwards to heal from being debilitated by fear to understanding that even though you can't control your environment, you can control how you are in your environment. She learned how to become the best version of herself, and in return, how that helped her and her husband create a happily ever after. Wow. It all starts with you. What a great love story, Monica. Thank you. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode, because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.